I could just be a grumpy old man, but it seems to me that kids in this current generation are growing up with a lack of understanding of personal responsibility, that they lack empathy for others. It's a very narcissistic world that we live in today, and they certainly lack the value of high quality hard work. Maybe it's just me. Now, my son he's a really good kid, and I don't think he struggles in these areas, but I work with kids, and I know that a lot of them are struggling with these issues. With our culture, with phones and social media and gaming, even our school system, it's not surprising to see that our young boys are really struggling to become responsible men of integrity. Not long ago, my son and I got to go down to Florida. My parents they're snowbirds, and so they spend, 6 to 8 weeks down in Florida each winter. And so for each of my kids, when they were turning 16 years old, they would fly me and whoever it was, one of my 2 daughters or my son, down for kind of a long weekend, and we'd get to go to a theme park and just kind of relax and have a good time. So this year, as that trip was approaching, I thought it would be a good opportunity to do something special with my son and do a rite of passage kind of event or ceremony with him. So as I was kind of researching this, I was like, well, is there certain things you should be doing with your son at a rite of passage? So, you hear about tribes like sending their sons out on their first hunt or their first hunt alone, and they have to go out and kill and bring something back and provide for the family. And that wasn't really something that we could pull off here. And I really don't think there's a set way to do this, but I believe there's just a few goals that you want to accomplish, and there's 3 main things I wanted to do. Number 1 was just let him know what it means to be a man. Number 2, communicate the responsibilities of being a man. And that means as a son, as a future husband, as a father. And then third, I want to communicate to my son that he's got what it takes. If you're familiar with John Eldridge and Wild at Heart, it's one of the things that he says all sons need to hear from their fathers, that their father loves them and they believe that they have what it takes. So here's what I did. I went out and I bought a nice journal, and I wrote him a letter on the first few pages, and then I followed that with a bunch of meaningful Bible verses that I thought would pour into his life, as well as some quotes. I picked some quotes from C.S. Lewis and Pascal, a couple of my favorite authors. And I read that to him, and I gave it to him to either write in or just keep and be able to look back at. And even though I could have just spoken to him, I wanted to have it in writing so that he can have that for the future and maybe pass it on to his son someday. I also wanted to give him a couple symbols to remind him of what we had talked about so he can remember all these things. And so I gave him an anchor necklace, and that's because a number of the Bible verses that I shared in this journal used the term hold fast, and hold fast refers to an anchor, right? An anchor that holds the boat from drifting off into sea, or especially in a storm that keeps the boat from getting slammed against the shore or the rocks. And what I communicated to him was, we have a culture that is going to try to drift you away or slam you against the rocks, and we can hold fast to the relationships we have, to the things that we've learned from important people in our life, and most importantly, to the God that we love and serve. And the other thing I gave him was a pretty nice Gerber pocket knife, and that was to symbolize protection and provision. Now, he's really not going to be able to go hunting with that, probably won't get very far, and he's certainly not going to be able to fend off any attackers with it. It was more of a symbol of the responsibility that he has to protect others, protect human life and his family someday and his wife, and also to be a provider. And again, even though he's not going to go hunting with that knife, it is his role and responsibility as a man to provide for his family, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually as well. And then finally, the last thing I did, which I think is really important, especially if you are from a Christian home or a godly home, is I prayed with him. And that was really a special time for me. I'm not a very emotional person, but I kind of got a little choked up at the end of it. And I think that actually was maybe a little bit impactful. But it was definitely, I think, one of the most memorable times that I'll have with my son. So that's basically what I did with my son. There was a little more to it, but you are more than welcome to steal any of these ideas or add to them or create your own. You know, maybe if you are a hunter or if you do archery or fishing, those are great activities to do with your son and kind of incorporate this whole rite of passage idea in something like that. But fathers, I really can't encourage you enough to do this with your sons. It will speak volumes into their lives for the rest of their lives, and hopefully it's something they'll pass on to their sons as well. So what I would really love for you to do is, if you've gone through a rite of passage ceremony as a son, you know, when you were younger, or if you've done one before with your son or sons, share in the comments below what you've done, what you've seen as effective, how you did it, what you went to do, and where you went. Those are all things that would be really valuable to other fathers out there. And I would love for this to really become a forum for fathers to pass ideas off to one another. Now, I know this has obviously been for fathers to do with their sons, but in the future, I'll share some more videos about how fathers and mothers can do similar sorts of things with their daughters. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you found it helpful, show a little love and hit the like button. If you found it really helpful, step it up a little more and subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for checking out the Jeff Bruce. I think I picked a bad day because it's super windy and there's a dog that won't stop barking. This is what you get for trying to record right by a National Guard base.